want that done. I cannot forget this. I cannot forget this. I cannot forget this.
Don't forget to share your screen.
I don't want to share it right now. See, that's the thing. What? For me, why is it on a half sheet of paper? Not a getting paper. Yeah, but don't unless I tell everyone to do it because then that's easy for me to lose. Okay. Thank you. Well,
Did we turn it? Oh, it's one.
yeah, we're doing yeah. All right, sit. All right, anybody else have them? Let's make sure your name is on them. I don't want this. What's this? Who's did this? Well, I don't want the wreath to scroll to the bottom, but I can read that. Okay. All right, turn them in if you have them, everybody. Turn them up. Federalist number 10. You should have a couple questions. There's a few people did not get theirs in, so turn them in. Thank you. Thank you. And let's talk about it. Everyone take out Federalist number 10. So I actually done one. I'm going to go around and just kind of look and see if you underlined them. I'm allowed. It's my gig. Talent. Real talent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dusty, send it. Unless I ask you for a hash, you don't put it on hash. It's fine this time, but because it makes it easier to lose. Thank you. All right, so we're recording this, everybody. We're going live. Say hi to our viewing audience. Look at this paperclip with a little anchor. Yeah, I'm saving that. I wish I had a whole thing of anchors. Okay, I have bad news for all of you. Just so you remember, I'm going to be gone on Thursday and Friday.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to go to a concert, and then I got to save the world. It's a gig. It's the thing I do. It's a 2-day thing. 1 day concert, 2nd day save the world. Oh, 23 answers. All right, so let's talk. So I'm gonna be gone. We're gonna watch on Friday, Thursday. We're gonna watch a video. We'll finish it on Friday, and then I have a little bit of homework for you to do. Just some reading. I'll make a photocopy. I'll put it on Teams of your text, and it'll just be something easy. Because I don't know exactly how much time you have, but there'll be a worksheet with a video. It's a thing on Thomas Jefferson I really like, so we'll watch that. And what else? All right, so let's go take your notes out and the documents for Federalist number 10. And let's talk a little bit about this because Federalist number 10 is kind of a big deal. It really shows, the reason I like it so much, it really shows what Madison was thinking. So all this group are the people that not get it done. Okay. Here's how it appeared in the paper. I have no idea what that is. No idea that was somehow on the printing press in the pamphlet. Yeah, the Federalist. I just go with it. And so, I asked you to underline examples for number 1. Underline basically what are the causes of faction, and I know so there were no set rules, and so I think part of the reason is it was artistic, and whatever they had artistic license. There were no grammatical rules. The first real dictionary that would be accepted is still about a little over a decade. And so I actually underline for number 1. And he laid out a bunch of different reasons for faction. Before we get to that, we're talking about Federalist number 10. What, pray tell, is a faction? In this context, remember when I'm going to ask you a question like this, you've got to think about the context of Federalist number 10, the Articles of Confederation. And by the way, who are the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution? Who are the people for the Constitution? What were they called? Federalists. Therefore, against the Constitution? Anti-Federalists. All right. What is a faction according to Madison? Let's put it this way. What is the closest thing to a faction? He refers to a faction, what's the closest thing today to that? Yeah. Political parties. These are political parties. So he says there'll be no factions. This will keep away the factions. Nothing to fear, no factions. Did he believe that? I don't know. Remember, he's not writing this because he necessarily believes this. He's writing this because he's trying to make the members of the New York State Assembly vote for the Constitution. And he knows that it might be fearful of faction because they're thinking violence of faction, Shays is rebellion. That's what they're thinking. So, what are the latent causes of faction? I about to say fascism. Factions. Anybody have one? Yes. That's the biggest one. He even says it right there. The most common, it's unequal distribution of property, aka class. That's class. Class. He even mentions in there in the class argument, debtors and creditors. And what an important issue that is. Debtors and creditors. Upper and lower class. And which of these two will be bigger? The lower by only about 95% to 5%, probably maybe even a little bit more. Yeah. Much more, many more people who are on the bottom, and therefore probably debtors too. The vast number of debtors. Oh, sure, there's a lot of very wealthy people who are debtors too, but wealthy people don't have debtors courts to worry about. That is the biggest issue, he said, is class. By the way, which one was Madison part of? He's wealthy. He's a debtor, but he's also very wealthy. What are the other reasons for class? Yeah. Yeah, religion. And religion, don't forget, they all thought about that religion war. There's the religious wars between the Puritans and the Anglicans in the horrible English Civil War, the Lutherans and the Catholics, other religious wars. That's why there's the Establishment Clause. They're really worried about this. What's another reason? Yes.
Like to create lesser passions on reasons that so that there's not additional divide. Like they already have divides within themselves. Parties would just be an additional divide.
Well, he's saying that would be a cause. I don't know if that's necessarily a cause of it, that additional divide. Because that's a way to argue why he doesn't want them. Yes. Say it again. Yeah, there might be different people. I mean, different ethnic groups. How people divide up by appearance, culture, ethnic groups. Yeah, that kind of thing. So different groups of people. And we can think of different ones. It could be by color of skin. It could be by where they're from, by language groups. Those are all different descriptions of people. He gives one more. Yes. Yeah, what kind of government it's going to be? What kind of government? Are we going to have a monarchy? Are we going to have a king? Are we going to have a republic? Are we going to have a dictator? Are we going to have a commune? And he also said attachment to different leaders. One leader. The story was always like the man on a horse. And the United States, because we are winner take all, we basically have two political parties. Remember what I told you, winner take all, you're stuck with two. Every time there's been a third party that didn't become one of the two major parties but popped up, which one? One leader. Oh, government, yeah. Government. And whenever there's a third party that didn't become one of the two major parties, like for example, in 1912, there's a Progressive or Bull Moose Party. That was a one-person party, Teddy Roosevelt. The Progressives in 1924, Robert La Follette. The States' Rights Independent Segregationist Party in 1968, it was a very popular segregationist, anti-civil rights governor of Alabama, George Wallace. In 1992, there's this party, this kind of wacky billionaire named Ross Perot called the Reform Party, and they got 30% of the vote in Montana. 1992 for president. So it was like one person, the leader. And so that kind of goes back to the George Washington. So these are the reasons for factions. So factions in the crate, but this is the biggie. Class. Debtors, creditors, class, class, class. All right. So democracy, he does lay out his definition of a democracy where you have a relatively small country where everyone can decide everything. That's clearly not what the United States is. But he lays out two really big issues, 2 points of difference between the republic and a democracy. He has the effect of the first difference and the effect of the second difference in the last 2 paragraphs. These are the 2 biggies, and those are the ones I wanted the answer. And I'll look at it, but we really got to look at these too. So obviously, the country could be bigger and extend the sphere. The sphere means the area inside the country. It's kind of a weird, archaic way of saying it. But everybody look at that second to last paragraph. This is kind of a biggie. So the first one, the small number of citizens elected by the rest, even though they're not necessarily elected. Read that second to last paragraph. But just read the first, it's a really long sentence. I know it's a little awkward. Okay, that first difference. So you got chosen people, elected or chosen by the electors, even though remember, most people couldn't vote in this new government. But what kind of people? Yes, they're elite. But how can we describe the people who will be chosen as representatives in this form of government? How does he describe them? What kind of people are they going to be? The most patriotic people ever to live, who care only about what's best for the country. Right? The most patriotic, we have that. So we got that. These are the kind of people who will be elected. These representatives will be, these reps will be patriotic. What else will they be? Yes, go ahead. Yeah, whose wisdom can best discern. So they will be the most wise, the most intelligent. What else? They love justice so much that they will not. I love how he puts this. The love of justice will be least likely to sacrifice it to temporary or partial considerations. What does that mean? Go ahead, Marie. For what? No, you said it right. What?
They want sacrifice justice for their bias.
Yeah, it won't be for what they want, their own personal gain. They're incorruptible, they can't be bribed. They're not doing it because they want wealth or power. They're doing it because they love justice. They are impartial. They only care what's best for what? The country. The most patriotic, the smartest, and the most honest. Their love of justice makes them the most honest people ever. And that to a T describes every single person who's ever been elected to a republic, right? Without a doubt. Never, ever are they dishonest. Never do they do anything for personal gain. It is always for their love of justice. Before Madison, there's been republics, and after Madison, and it's always been that way. Did Madison believe this? No, he wasn't dumb. He didn't believe this. But what's he calling the people who were elected as representatives to New York? What is he telling them they are? The most patriotic, the wisest, and the most honest. You guys are so wonderful. Don't you agree that you're the most wonderful ever? Can I suck up to you a little bit more? Who else is like this? You? Well, obviously. Who else thinks they're all these things? And they honestly believe they are. Madison. I am the smartest, most patriotic, and most honest person. If you don't believe me, I'll tell you. So he got this little bit of a dichotomy. Of course he knew there were people dishonest. But I'll be elected and I'm the best. Right? Who's with me? I just told you you're the best. Come on. And then the next sentence. Regulation means control. So read the next sentence. Under such regulation. You prefer brown or purple? That's a tough one, isn't it? Okay. I got the brown eye. I love this. What's he saying there? A better way to say this is, what does he say about regular people? Yeah. So who's the only one who can make those decisions for them? Yes. Regular people are too dumb to know what they want. The only ones who could possibly do this are this chosen number of representatives like Madison. Yeah. The representatives are more consonant, which means basically consistent with the public good than pronounced by the people themselves convened for that purpose. The people don't know anything, but the smart ones do. Now, there's no doubt that Madison thought he was like that. Is that true? People have been in charge, have been saying that since time immemorial. It doesn't mean that they're wrong, but boy, what a biased point of view. Doesn't that justify keeping everything the same then? So that's the first thing. We're the best and everyone else is dumb. Let's look at the next one. All right. The next one, the other point of difference is the gray notice citizens, the sanitary, which may be brought into the compass of the Republican and Democratic government. And it is in these circumstances which renders factious combinations less likely to be dreaded in the former than the latter. It could be bigger, less likely to be factious. The idea being is, if we're sitting here in this classroom, we'll divide up. But if we go, I will govern this classroom, go to one spot. I go to the office and decide. I won't be tainted by your factious ways, your turbulent mob-like ways. Because you do have a mobbish tendency in you. Have you noticed that about? When I'm here, I calm you down. But everyone read that last paragraph. Extend, once again, the sphere, extend the control. So read that last sentence. Want to read that last sentence? What's it saying? A republic will protect whom? Who's that? It doesn't say those words. The minority. But the minority, which might include the wealthy. The republic will protect the minority from the tyranny of the majority. It will say right there, because it could be because class is a big deal. But you make it less probable that the majority of the whole will have common motive to invade the rights of other citizens. So the tyranny of the majority won't invade the rights of other citizens. That could be religion, that could be different points of view, that could be different groups of people. But let's get to the biggie. What is he telling those relatively wealthy people in New York? We won't have another Shays' rebellion in this government. You will be protected. Was it enough? Did it work? 30 to 27. That was the vote. It worked. The tyranny of the majority will not win. This is by definition. He's bragging anti-democratic. Let's add one more thing. Let's say you want a democratic republic. I'm not saying a full democracy where we decide on everything, but democracy where the people are sovereign, we pick our leaders, we have control over them, we can change the government if we want. What do we need? Maybe, but what do we need to enforce those checks and balances? What's that? I need an executive. What's going to enforce to make sure the executive doesn't do things for personal gain or affiliation? What controls the government?
Money.
Yeah. So a small little group of people can control to have the money. What's the way to counterbalance that? What's the way to enforce that? Factions. If you don't have factions, aka parties, then a small group will run it. We have really weak parties. We have shockingly weak parties in the United States. Our parties are all kind of, I don't even know what they stand for. I mean, I do, but our parties are really weak. And some of them might think, oh, wait a minute, the party seems a little strong. Almost half the population say they're independent. By definition, weak parties. People don't see it. If you join a party, that has control to make sure the executive does what they want. The parties are a way to, you have a, here's the big thing the parties give you, a choice. The parties give you a choice. If you don't have parties, what do people stand for? I know what they stand for. They tell you. And as we all know, everybody who runs for office is the most patriotic, wise, and honest, so they always tell the truth, correct? Do people always tell the truth? Outside there, they don't. Madison is saying, if you want a democracy, you have factions. You have factions, you won't have a democracy. All we know for sure is what Madison is saying is, this will not be democracy. I promise. And your wealth will be protected. Other than that, he's kind of winging it. I like Federalist number 10. It really shows the point of view they have. And on that happy note, if you put it and did this, write a separate sheet of paper, give it to me tomorrow and show me, okay? Okay. So, oh, you did? All right. Yeah. So let's go take your notes out. Let's go finish up notes. Let's go ahead and get back to this. I'm going to change the screen. I forgot last time. Oh, by the way, what was the tastiest food? We discussed this on Friday. Kit Kats, obviously. Why are Kit Kats the best food? It's not even taste, it's nutrition.
Gives you everything you need.
What are you two? Chocolate and wafer, yes. Chocolate and wafer.
And you got brushed.
Where did we finish here? Did we get?
The amendment number 1.
Oh, did we get the first? We got the Bill of Rights?
Yeah, the Bill of Rights was Madison.
We were just talking about the first amendment.
Oh, we got right to here, okay? Let's do it real quick. We're not going to go through every amendment. Obviously, you're going to take government and go through this in great detail. But the point, a couple different things about this. We're going to see this in history. And I told you on Friday, I think right before the bell rang. Does it say anywhere that you have freedom of speech? No, it doesn't say that. And that is one of these gray areas that people say, I have a freedom of speech. And I like this, the First Amendment, freedoms. It doesn't say that. That doesn't mean that we have accepted there are certain freedoms of speech that we can assume, but they define speech. So Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. Does it say you have complete freedom of religion? No, they just can't ban a religion per se. But they could say, well, that's not a religion. Like, what if I said, oh, I'm starting the church of stealing money from freshmen? And the only way that we can truly become a member and become saved is to extort money from freshmen or just roll them in the hallway. Right? How dare you violate my freedom of expression? Who's with me in this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of you want to protect freshmen.
No.
Some of you are scared. Don't be afraid. Follow me. So the point is, they decide that. You do not have a blanket freedom of religion. And some religions have to change because of this. We'll get to a couple. And so, shall make no law abridging the freedom of the press. I know it's a weird way to do it, but that is. It doesn't say that the press can print anything they want. And it doesn't say, therefore, then what can be censored and when things can be censored. The government censors things all the time. Wait till we get to World War I, World War II. And then Congress shall make no law. Where are we at here? Abridging the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Who decides the difference between, okay, I'm not going to stop you from peacefully assembling, but you're a mob, and I'm not going to allow that. Do you see the gray areas? Or my favorite, Congress shall make no law abridging the right of the people to petition the government for redress of grievances. What's a petition? Or my personal favorite, thank you for the petition. I really care what you think. Let me file it away. It doesn't say they have to read it. So do you get the point here? The First Amendment is incredibly important, but there's going to be a lot of gray areas. We see this time and time in history. And this will be a fight between having more rights for the people and less rights. And it really depends, a combination of your own personal ideology or belief system and or what's going on at that moment. So, free speech, yes. I am a firm believer in free speech. That's why I'm telling you there's gray areas in this on what is allowed for free speech. And that is a discussion that should be had. Let's get to the Second Amendment. Now, the Second Amendment, Madison did not want this at all. He didn't want it. He didn't want to write this. Why? He didn't want to give states more power. And so that is why you have this weird way it's written. Nothing else in the Constitution is written this way. It's not even clear what it's about. Is it about militia? Is it about free people? Is it the state? Is it arms? It's not clear. He didn't want it. He didn't want this amendment. And so Madison wrote this. And this is going to be open to a lot of interpretations. I'll come back to this, but let me show you. Oh, but the whole point was, it was about state power. It was about state power, especially southern states, militia. But it was about state power. And Madison did not want to give the states more power. Does everyone have it? Madison didn't want to do it. And so it was about state power. All the debates in Congress about this, remember, it's got to pass 2/3 of Congress before it goes to the states. Madison proposed 12 amendments, 10 got 2/3 of a vote. The 12th one got 2/3 of the vote in 1991. 200 years later. But the whole debate was about state power, standing army, militia. That's all they talked about. The big thing was, should we have a standing army? Should we have a standing army? That means a regular army. a professional army or militia. And professional army, to many people, meant tyranny. Washington wanted. Alexander Hamilton, he was obsessed with having a large army. But let me give you what, oh, last thing I almost forgot. But this is what the debate has come to. It will be for the next, actually, this was not even debated until the 1970s. Is it talking about a regulated militia or is it about personal weapons? In the 1970s, up until the 70s into the 80s, it was accepted, the Supreme Court ruled time after time after time, that it was about militia. Time after time after time. But beginning in the late 70s and then 80s, 90s through today, more and more became about the right to personal weapons. But the Supreme Court ruled time after time after time after time. It was about militia, time after time. And the reason why is this. That's the way Madison originally wrote it. Okay, a couple things we'll get to first off. Regulated means well-trained, well-organized. So everyone got that? I mean, that makes sense, right? Regulated means trained. What's a free state? We're not sure what he meant. State is another term for country. Did he mean the free country or did he mean individual states? And my guess is what he meant, and what I've read, is he wanted you to not know. So just kind of go. But here's the biggie. What's an arm? I was waiting for somebody to point to their arm. Ah! What's an arm? Weapon. Some weapons are, some weapons aren't. What's an arm? Huh? Some are, some aren't. There's a pretty good, there's a very solid definition for this. Some swords are, some swords aren't. Bayonet is an arm. Some are, some aren't. Bayonet's an arm. A cannon is an arm. Grape shot is an arm. A thermonuclear weapon is an arm. Military. Military. So you get the point, some are, some aren't. And yes, there's obviously gray area, but a hunting rifle in 1789 was not an arm because it was almost impossible to load, so that was just simply used for, it take about 3 minutes to load. Because you have to very carefully kind of almost screw the musket ball into the barrel. Military weapons. So last thing, you notice this is the big thing they cut out, right? So, no one religiously scrupulous of bearing arms shall be compelled to render military service in person. And they took it out for a very important reason, because it implies anybody who is not religiously scrupulous, what must they do? Yeah, they must join the militia. The militia is not the regular army, but it's like it's a draft, it's conscription. You're gonna, if it's implying, if you're not religiously scrupulous, you have to be in the militia. Basically, all young men must be in the militia. Everyone catch that? And that's not what they wanted. They didn't want everybody to feel forced like it was a country in Europe who started conscription or the draft, like Prussia, where every young man must be in the military when they turn 19. This one, no. So they took this off, and that's where we get that. Everyone catch that? And so you do not have to be in the militia if you do not want to. But the right of the people to keep and bear arms should not be in the militia. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that a conscientious objector, that's a term from the Vietnam War. Yeah. But the point is that's going to be defined by the state. So you have to prove that your faith, like the big thing they were thinking of were Quakers, who were pacifists. But then again, remember, Nathaniel Greene was a fighting Quaker. So it really depends on the state. So you can't just say, I'm religiously scrupulous of my My church is stealing money from freshmen, but we're also pacifists. Except in the duty of our church. So, that is, and this is kind of the couple arguments against it. The regulated militia, like, well, in 1789 it was a musket, and today this was done in the early 2000s. Assault style weapons were not a thing when I was your age. Significantly fewer people have weapons today than when I was your age. But the people who do have weapons have more than ever before. It's like I don't know. They just have a lot. And here's the idea that I wonder why they chose to rank that one so high, implying that people with weapons is defending the country from tyranny. So, these are the two elements of the Second Amendment. But let's get to a couple things really quick. In 2008, DC versus Heller, a court case in the Supreme Court, reversed the precedent. It was the first time the Supreme Court said, it's not all about militia. It's about personal weapons. Why? We have a pretty radical court. Now you can agree or disagree, but I mean radical as overturning precedent. There's case after case after case after case that it was militia. And so this applied, you have some right to weapons, unusual weapons can be banned. But then 2 years ago, they ruled, nah, you can only ban weapons if it matches laws from 1791. That's what the Supreme Court ruled. Historical precedent. Which I found fascinating because if we go by historical precedent, I guess we have to go back to slavery. So that's where we're at now. By the way, anybody know why I chose that picture there? What is that a picture of?
Slave.
That's the labor. That's so the militia is pretty radical. I'll come back to personal weapons in a sec. Let's get to a few more amendments of the Constitution. Second Amendment is very confusing. It was, the debates were all about militia. So basically, politically, they've decided we're going to read the Constitution in a new way, our way. So, Amendment 3, you notice I put this small. Remember the Quartering Act? No quartering of troops. That was direct response to what the British did. Almost forgot one thing. The Second Amendment, the British banned Protestant militias from having weapons back in 1687. And these Protestant militias were very important for putting down, or were, would eventually help lead to the Glorious Revolution. So that was an element of it. Let's get back to this. Now, the Fourth Amendment. This one I do want you to write down. No unreasonable searches and seizures. The right to disturb the person's house in the papers and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, what's the gray area? Yeah, what's unreasonable? And they're supposed to get a warrant from a judge. Well, what's in the warrant? And so there's a lot of gray area. You guys are the classic example of gray area because once you enter the school, once you leave your home to go to school, the school becomes your parent until you get home again after school. And so they actually have rights to search everything you have. Not me, because I have that power within the school, but the administration does. They use it? Well, not necessarily, but it's kind of an interesting little factoid about that. Now, why am I writing this? Writs of assistance? I do want you to write that down. A writ of assistance was a blanket search warrant to search anything they want, and that's what the British used against smugglers. So there is a direct relationship. But do they search you without you ever knowing? Could that happen? Could a government entity search you without warrant? How's that happen to you? Yes, absolutely. It's happened to me. Because of electronic communications, they don't really tell you. And then under the Patriot Act, which was signed right after September 11th, they have the right to do what they literally call a sneak and peek. And they say they can have a secret court, and they can, it's called the FISA court, and they can literally go and do a search on someone's home if they're threatened with terrorism, and you will never know they're in there. And they call it a sneak and peek. And they're good. This actually was a big deal because they looked into anti-war movements during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. All right, so that's Amendment 4. Hans bell right. Last one to write down, Amendment 5. Amendment 5, a couple things about this. This is kind of a big one, and it talks about militia and everything else, but let's get to the part that really matters. So there could be a grand jury for capital cases, but let's get to the one that we care about the most. Or no shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself or put in double jeopardy. You can't testify against yourself, and that's what's called the Fifth Amendment. So in a trial, you can't testify against yourself. Technically, you can testify, but you're not going to be compelled to. But here's the biggie. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. And that's what we got to get. Due process of the law. Every citizen has certain rights to be charged with a trial, be treated fairly, to be allowed to have counsel or defense, to be having a fast trial, a jury trial. Everybody has this with due process of the law. Due process. And that is huge. Every citizen today. Due process of the law. That is one of the most important things, that everyone has legal rights. And this is part under the blanket term of right down habeas corpus. Habeas corpus, the right to a trial, the right to know what you're being convicted of. That is habeas corpus. We will come back to habeas corpus during the Civil War. All right, so that's a few minutes. We'll finish the amendments, talk about all kinds of stuff. Hopefully get to 1800 Jefferson on Wednesday. I will be gone on Thursday and Friday. Yes, I am going to an office. All right, goodbye, everybody. Yeah. With that base on the kind of what happened was goodbye, everybody. It basically said that there can be no gun laws, that there can be no restrictions to guns that go against, that are different than restrictions that existed in 1791. Okay. So basically, the law that exists in 1791 can't exist. Which is kind of amazing. I mean, you could agree or disagree about gun rights, but 1791 is a lot different than today. I don't know if you guys know this. Yeah. Thank you. You just write in your packet. Oh, okay.
When they see each other in public, they go sit together and talk. Like,
Where's my mouse? See you tomorrow. Say goodbye to everybody.